Welcome to the Darkstream, Voxday, voxday.net, and unauthorized.tv. So as I promised, once this whole thing started, that I was going to be streaming at least 3 nights a week, and I think this might actually make the 4th, including the Arkhaven Nights stream with John Delarose. Curious to know if you guys are enjoying those. You know, I know sometimes it's nice to have some interplay and interaction. That's why they always have several people on a television show and so forth. We don't always, in fact, we very seldom stick to the topic that we originally planned to talk about. What we did plan to talk about was the situation going on with Gab and the whole cult of free and that sort of thing. Somehow we never quite got around to it. But I thought it'd be a good idea. You know, Arkhaven doesn't get as much attention as it should from me and from others, and so I thought that, and also, you know, John is doing a phenomenal job with Fandom Pulse, and you know, he really needs to be recognized for that, rewarded for that. Hey, we have a super chat. someone's still got something left in the wallet. Thanks, Anthony. Saturday super chat, he says. I can move this over a bit. I'm not sure I like it there. It's a little bit on the one hand, it's nice because I can just reach over and pour myself a glass of wine. On the other hand, that's probably not a great idea to have that accessible throughout the course of the workday. I just happened to move it because I was doing some stuff on the table before. Didn't put it back, but also I think it blocks my my speaker there. So anyhow, Ironic Keyboard says, loving having you on JDA Unfiltered. Okay, well, that's good. Anthony is single-handedly carrying the platform between processors. Yeah, so anyhow, you know, we're making good progress. We're making solid progress. We're not trying to you know, push things too dramatically or you know, be in a hurry about these things. The key is to do it right, and it's so important in so many things to take the time to do it right. I know it's maddening for people. In fact, you know, there was one guy who had subscribed for like a year, still hadn't seen a book, and just finally threw up his hands and said, you know, can I have a refund? We said, sure, no problem. But, you know, of all the various folks, you know, he was someone from outside the community, and he's still never seen a Castalia library book. So, I mean, that's why at least with the annuals, we're sending people books right away. You know, we're still toying with the idea of, I mean, what we need to do is probably come up with a different product that allows you to buy a book and subscribe with an initial payment that covers the cost of that book or something. I've been reluctant to do that because Easton Press does what I consider to be a bait and switch. They sell you a really inexpensive copy of Huckleberry Finn by Mark Twain, and then they say, and you'll get stuff in the future. And then, you know, these poor people think they're buying a book, but they're really buying the subscription. Yeah, maybe I'm being too sensitive about that. Maybe I'm being a little bit too, you know, paranoid when we're dealing with people who aren't going to read the blog and don't watch these streams and have no idea about anything. They just, you know, thought they were signing up to get a book right away. So, but we'll figure it out. We'll sort it out. I have to say that, The Castelia Library and Castelia History subscribers have been magnificent. I think we're within like 10 on the history side. I think we're within like 10 subscriptions of everybody being completely back up to speed and back on track. And so we'll get through to that. Blitzkrieg Bear said they did that to me with Dracula, and you didn't know it was a subscription. Exactly. See, I don't want to do that. I don't want to risk doing that. And I even heard that they occasionally get in trouble with. Nibmeister says the same thing. My son bought me a book from Easton, and a month later another showed up. He was not happy about that. Yeah, so it's a difficult proposition. Because even if we make it clear you're signing up for the subscription, and if you want to get a book with this, there's still going to be people who are going to think, well, I just bought a book. Why am I still getting charged the next month? And I don't know. We'll sort it out. We'll figure it out. Also, one thing that I would suggest, don't go overboard on this, but the lady who handles all of the emails and all the communications, she's under a lot of pressure right now, because she's the one who's getting all of our manual records realigned with all of the new information and making sure that nobody misses a book and everybody's paid up, etc., etc. So if you do have cause to interact with her, if you're sending in an email, it wouldn't hurt to express some degree of appreciation for her work specifically, not Castelia House, not all of us, specifically what she's doing, because she does a phenomenal job. And she was really happy to see how all the subscriptions were coming back online. But when I sent out the email, the broad email to everybody, I said, hey, and she asked me to do it. She said, okay, would you make sure that you get an email to everybody out before the end of February, so that we can maximize the number of people who renew in February and don't have to do a catch-up payment, so she doesn't have to deal with that. And so I did, and I called her up and said, hey, so I got the email out you wanted. I sent out 13,300 emails. And she goes, okay, so I'm just going to go have a little cry now, and then I'll go hop back on the emails. So, it's just she's quite happy to do it. She's quite happy, to take care of you guys. But it is a lot, because we're talking between history and library, we're talking probably 1,250, 1,300 different subscriptions and so forth, maybe more. And so just something to keep in mind. Remember that it's not always me on the other end of the emails, and so if you're frustrated with the whole thing, or if you're frustrated with me, don't take it out on people whose fault it just isn't. Things are going to get really interesting in the next 2 years for the community, for Castelia and that sort of thing. I am sensing a degree of vulnerability in the two giants of the industry. Well, really the giant and then the longtime player. Easton Press does have a really, really smart guy running it, so they've got that going for it. On the downside, they have a whole plate full of young female Brown University English majors who run most of the stuff there. And I suspect that there's a certain amount of, I don't suspect, there's a certain amount of tension between the direction that the industry professionals think they should be going and the way that the young SJWs believe things should be going. And that's why you see, I think, such insane offerings from them. You know, some of the stuff is great and makes a tremendous amount of sense, and some of the stuff is nuts. I think Folio Society is going through something even more potentially destructive in the long run. They're doing some fantastic stuff. They have 3 wonderful Murakami books. I think it's The Wind-Up Bird Chronicles, Kafka on the Shore, and Norwegian Wood. All pretty good choices. Probably not my first 3 choices, but all good choices. And Nimmeister says Easton is all in on magic. Yeah, that's not the smart guy who's pushing that. That would be the Brown literary or English majors. And I think you're going to start seeing the same thing from Folio Society. The interesting thing about Folio Society is that for 71 years, I think they're having their 75th anniversary either this year or next year. And it must be next year. Because I think they started in 1941 or so. But anyhow, if you look at what they're doing, for 71 years, you had to be essentially have a subscription. To buy the books there, you had to buy 4 books a year, a minimum of 4 books a year. And then you were a member, and then you could buy whatever. They got rid of that, I believe, 3 years ago. And you can probably guess what happened. The first 2 years, the sales go up. Because all the people who are not willing to commit to buying 4 books a year are thinking, hey, well, I always wanted that book, or I always wanted those 2 books. And so their sales go up. But what happens when the members, the longtime members who have been buying 4 books a year, suddenly realize, you know what, I only like 2 of those books. I don't need to buy 4 anymore. And especially at the same time, they really changed their focus. And some of it's smart, some of it's good. You know, the Murakami is great. I think it's probably smart for them to have, gotten into doing some stuff like Dune and, Lord of the Rings, and which they've done before. But they did George Martin stuff, and they did some very nice editions of George Martin stuff. Nibmeister says, I bought a spectacular reproduction of an 1800s era Book of Common Prayer from Folio. When was it produced? I'm wondering if they're still actually doing that kind of stuff much. But anyhow, what I did learn was that, because I pay attention to what these guys are doing, just like they pay attention to us. And they've really, unfortunately for them, I think, they've really bought into the whole Hugo nonsense thing. So they have this new book that's, I think, last year's Hugo Best Novel winner, or 2 years ago. And it's got these illustrations which look like good cartoon illustrations. They're not, they mostly look like they could come out of something that's on ArcToons. And one of the better ones, but still something that's on ArcToons. And what was kind of fascinating about it is that it's total SJW. I mean, there's a black guy on a black guy on the bed with a white-skinned alien. It's not the kind of thing that most people want to see, much less pay several $100s to have in a book. So uh, I wasn't surprised when I got an email and it said, "Hey, if you buy a book, you get a free mystery book." So, um, so there could be some interesting opportunities there, especially as we move into the English market starting next year with our, oops, with our sponsorship next year. People are going to start becoming more aware of us in the UK, and I think that there's room because Folio does really good interiors, but they haven't been able to figure out how to do the leather thing, and they're not going to. Then, there might be some interesting synergies at work there at some point in time. We'll have to see. Speaking of books, by the way, I have something to show you which I think is really cool. So this is The Altar of Hate. It's a collection of short stories that I wrote. It's not a very big book. It's what, 200 pages? Not even that. 186 pages or so. This is actually where my Venetian carnival mask came from. One of the stories is set in Venice. In fact, that down here is actually an image of Venice, and so I was so pleased with the artwork that I just adopted it as my online logo. But this is really exciting because this is from the Castalia bindery. Now, obviously, we don't have a stamp for it because we don't make stamps for one-offs, and we haven't built up a quantity of just decorations and all that kind of stuff. But it's even got some fancy end papers. That's a French fleur-de-lis, which represents the Maupassant, and you can see that this is not this is not a special paper or anything. This is just made from a regular book, but the bookbinder now has the ability to completely finish these books based on whether it's based on the special book blocks we produce for the deluxe stuff, or just a nice version from a regular book. And so so this is, I think, really exciting because it's going to expand the possibility of things we can do. So for example, if we need to do 25 books, if we need to do 50 books, we will have that capacity now. And so for those of you who supported the bindery and made it happen, we are getting closer and closer to full operation. And so so I think that's really exciting, and it's also really exciting to see that we have the competence now to produce these things. I mean, this is the kind of stuff that it's even better, but this is the kind of stuff that like Larry Correa did when he had a few early Monster Hunter things done. I'm hoping to, in the very near future, show you the first books that are being done that are fully and properly stamped the way that the books behind me are. So anyhow, that's what's going on there. We had a big game today. I'm not going to talk about it tonight because I'm going to wait until we get the highlights and can show those and put them up on unauthorized TV. But that's what's going on there. And also, I thought it was really interesting that Torba released some facts about what had happened in the aftermath of their decision to stop the freeloaders. And let me see if I can find what he had to say there. I marked it. I may have to, oh, I'm not logged in anymore. Let's see, where do I keep this stuff? Okay. that's right. It's funny how when you're not operating like normal, suddenly you kind of forget where everything is. So, okay, so the first thing that pops up, Vox Day is live on unauthorized TV. Update on the changes 48 hours in. All bot media file spam activity has ceased. There is now 0 porn being posted on Gab. 0. We're on track to cover our monthly expenses very quickly. Subversive Fed posting and doxing accounts have been deported. I think that means that they're no longer functioning. Our drives are filling up less quickly, which buys us more time to solve the problem. And it's much a surprise to me. He says site traffic is up 30% today compared to our baseline daily traffic from the past week. So I think that's really interesting because it confirms my opinion, which is that the site is much more useful when it's not getting spammed by all of this nonsense. I don't care how correct you are about a certain ethnicity, about Keynesian economics, about Zendaya being too present in the Dune movies. Regardless of what your opinion happens to be, I don't want to see it repeatedly spammed into the timelines again and again and again and again and again. It's tedious. It's boring. It's not what anyone wants to experience on social media. And so the great irony is that there may actually be more people spending more time there than it looked when you had these bots and paid propagandists and alt retard trolls constantly spamming the thing with the same nonsense over and over and over again. The fact that the initial response is that the traffic is up may indicate that. It may not. It may just be people are curious about the train wreck aspect and we're showing up to see what happened. Who knows? I mean, it's obvious that there's less media being posted. That's very clear. Does that mean that there's actually fewer people using the site? Not at all. I mean, social media in the beginning was never about pictures and videos. It's kind of turned into that, but that's not what it was really ultimately supposed to be about. Communication is always better in terms of words than pictures, regardless of how effective visual rhetoric can be. Venomous says, everyone is super committed to the fight until it isn't free anymore. Well, exactly, and that's the fundamental problem. But I think that you have to apply the lesson of Gideon. Gideon listened to the Lord, and he kept winnowing down his force until he was finally down to 200 hardcore warriors, and then he went and won the victory. That was all he needed. I've said many, many times that I would rather have 2,000 people who are actually committed and who are willing to stand with me, and that I can stand in a manner that I can be confident that they're not going to run the minute that there's any sort of opposition or difficulty, than have 200,000 people who are going to completely abandon you and forget about you the moment that YouTube kicks you off the channel. I mean, that's why I always disvalued my 37,000 followers on Twitter and Owen's 300,000 followers on YouTube, because most of them, not all of them, but most of them were there for YouTube, not for Owen. They were there for Twitter, not for me. And as soon as we were gone, they were perfectly happy to switch over to Jordan Peterson or Ben Shapiro or some other random comic. You know, it's very important never to get carried away with numbers. You know, some of my numbers on the Blogger blog before Google cut my access to it, and in fact, this is probably why they cut my access to it. We were getting up to 150,000 page views a day. And that was without comments. You know, I think the average, the peak average 1 month was 110,000 page views. With voxday.net, we're now down to probably an average of 27,000 a day. It kind of bounces between 25 and 32. And that's fine. You know, I'm happy that the Sigma Game Substack is all, you know, in 1 month it's gone from 0 to averaging over 9,000 a day. That's great. But you know, you can't get too carried away with it. You can't take it too seriously. You know, we've got 36 watching here tonight. It's fine. I mean, think about how many people 36 people actually is. Think about what you can do if you've got 36 people, 37 now, working together on something. You can, and we have, accomplished great things. And so, you know, we're much better off having our relatively small core of, you know, 1,000, 1,500 people with Castalia, you know, maybe total of 10,000 with regards to UATV. We're much better off with that than we were when we had 100 times the number on YouTube and Twitter. You know, because when you have people that are just there to be entertained, when people who are just there to view you as just another passive piece of entertainment to while by the hours with, they're not going to help you do anything. You're not going to be able to accomplish anything with people like that. And so I think that not only has Gab done the right thing, but I think that Gab is probably going to benefit greatly from having pared down the distraction of the people who aren't committed to Torba's vision, Torba's cause. I think he said they've got something like 23,000 pro subscribers, which is fantastic. I mean, that makes Gab, you know, about roughly 2.5 times bigger than UATV. You know, fantastic, good for them. You know, I still vastly prefer the Social Galactic experience. You know, I prefer the clean speech approach that we've taken. I think that a fair number of you have shared that a lot of you appreciate that as well. I think it makes it easier for you know, for some of the women, some of the younger members of the community to be permitted to participate, because you know, they're not going to be getting this constant stream of vulgarity, obscenity, and you know, just offensive speech that is not good for them, and that does not teach them how to communicate effectively or in a mature manner. You know, Owen actually told me that he's been very positively affected by that, and he's even in his own quixotic way attempting to adapt that to some of his own conversation. So hang on a second, I thought I heard something like a dog do something. But anyhow, actually I'm gonna go check something. I want to make sure that I want to turn the camera off for a second. I want to make sure that the dogs didn't get into something. I'll be right back. Sorry about that. There we go. We had a we had some fresh croissants out on the counter, and I realized that I'd left the door open there when I made a coffee, and I thought, I think all the dogs don't have access, but I thought, well, I better go check. So there was going to be a very unhappy space bunny if all of the croissants were gone. Two of the dogs are pretty good, but one of them is an absolutely determined counter surfer, and I can't count the number of times somebody's been complaining that I had this and the dog ate it, and I'm like, you can't leave stuff on the counter or on the table, you know. You just flat out can't. Well, I closed the door. Well, somebody else opened the door. You know, totally inevitable. We actually used to have a Brittany Spaniel when I was growing up, and he was an evil genius. And I mean, you literally could not leave all the dogs that you know of. Yeah, exactly. People say, so how many animals do you have? And I do my best to, yeah, but I'm not entirely sure. It's not impossible that there's like a mini donkey being hidden in the goat area. Ironic Keyboard says, my dog was like Jaws. You'd see the tail like a fin, and the snout was going for the food. Yeah, that was exactly like our Brittany, except for you didn't see the tail. Just you'd see this little pink nose pop up briefly, and then boom, the hamburger or whatever it was gone. I remember one time my mother was so angry because she had brought her plate to the table and then gone back to the counter and to grab the condiments. And by the time she got back, her hamburger was completely gone. The dog was gone, and none of us had seen it. She's like, and she actually thought for a second that she hadn't given herself a hamburger yet. Like, did I imagine that? Anyhow, she was very unhappy. Wow, we have another super chat. Q1882 sends a very generous super chat. It says, the streams with John Della Rose have been awesome. Well, I'm glad you guys like it. We're going to continue doing Arcaven Nights. Shakes the coin jar. The last two with anything left in the wallet. Doling it out carefully. Wise, very wise. You know those guys have solid bank accounts. You know, I mean, if you're actually like careful with your unauthorized super chat wallet, you're probably pretty good with your personal spending, I suspect. What Whereas, some of the bears, I'm a little less optimistic. It's like, here, Owen, let me super chat you again, Owen. Anyhow, he's got those deep unauthorized pockets. Exactly. No, we're gonna, once we get everything up and running again, and I hope, actually, I'm quite confident that the unauthorized subscribers are going to come back just as strong or even stronger than the Castalia ones did. But we're, just to be clear, everything's stable, everything's solid. The team and I were just reviewing that 2 nights ago, and I was actually pleasantly surprised that we were spending less than I had assumed, which meant that it's still important because we need to be keeping the creators going. But that's the main expense. The infrastructure stuff, we're in pretty good shape. So and once we get that done, then we're going to be we've got some new features and that sort of thing that we are planning to add and get rolling. Kajia says, once payment process sorted out, I'm going to support even harder than before. Well, I appreciate that, and I know that some people will, and we've been seeing that with Castalia. Oh, and speaking of Castalia, these, some of you have noticed, are actually shipping. I've been told mine are on the way. Of course, I probably have to wait longer than most of you, but it's still pretty cool. Let's see. I like this one here. So this is volumes 1 and 2. You can see the interior of volume 1. They did some. I didn't realize there's so many images. It was a lot more expensive than I had expected because of that. But because the full Cambridge medieval history has no pictures, right? But and so I'd read part of this, but I hadn't actually noticed a bunch of pictures. Anyhow, that's volumes 1 and 2, and let me see if I can give you another view here. I do think we need to improve our ribbon game. I haven't been terribly pleased with the ribbons, to be honest. They're the same ribbon, basically the same type of ribbons that that Easton use, but I don't know. They're not quite cutting it as far as I'm concerned. I don't really use, I never use ribbons myself, but it's traditional, so obviously we'll keep it. Mine are all like folded up under it, how you like, but anyhow, and I really think that I love the way that the history logo turned out. I think that turned out much better than I'd, let me get a side view here of the spine. And these are actually taken directly at the, can I rotate this? Let's see here. Settings. Okay. Oh, well, that's not what I wanted to do. Huh. That was not what I was expecting. I think it's backwards. Let's see. I have no idea what I'm doing here. It's like a 3D rotation thing. Never mind. We're just gonna get rid of that one. But if you see the top of the spine there, that's that Lego Ergo Shio, and so it's coming along. Update on the Iliad and the Odyssey? No update, not yet. We are waiting to nail down our ability to do the hubs before we worry about that. You'll know that we've got it underway when we open up orders for those two again. For people who have come along since and want to support the bindery, we'll make it possible to do that, because then we can print the right number. And in fact, if you know Etherstar, I don't think you were here earlier, but I was just given this today by the binder, and this bodes well for projects that we're doing that are some of the smaller projects that we're doing at the bindery. This is essentially the same type of thing that we'd be doing for other people, with the exception of we'll have an actual stamp. This was done without a stamp. This is just with our our letter stamp system. So, but the point is that we now have the ability to finish off nice, beautiful, and I can't stress enough, this is goat skin. It feels amazing. And so we now have the ability to finish books. We got the stamping rigs in for the proper stamping, and we actually have our first 2 stamps that should work with that. We're actually going to be testing them out starting Monday. So next week I hope to be able to show you some stuff from the bindery, similar to this, but with an actual full graphic stamp on the spine and on the cover. But the good news is that we're doing high quality bound leather books. We just don't have the we still need to add the bands on the spine, and that's pretty much it. So, and I've been assured by our top consultant / contract guy that we should, he believes that we will have the stamping sorted, in his expression, within a month. So I'll keep you posted. I know I've been saying that it's coming for a long time, but these things just take time, and it's not simple, and it's not trivial. And in fact, I learned today that there are now essentially it's essentially us and one other company doing this, because the bindery that we've used purchased its, what I believe to be its last remaining competitor, and so so that's going to be interesting too, because it's really become a dying art, and we are going to keep it going. One hopes that they will too, but you guys know better than anybody some of the problems that operation has had. I mean, our bindery wouldn't exist if their operations were running smoothly, and from what I understand, I don't believe that they are doing much in the way of training up a new generation. So over time, it's probably going to fall to us. I mean, we are literally the monks of the 21st century, and so I guess it's appropriate that we're doing the illuminated Beowulf. And again, I'm not saying that there aren't other people that can't bind leather. Of course, there's tons of hand binderies all over the world, but in terms of an actual industrial grade, semi-automated factory. There's one in India. There's 4 in the USA that all belong to the same people, and us, and that's it. So actually, I believe there's one operation in Italy, but I don't believe it does anything but Bibles. And it's not something that you can, it belongs to Mondadori, which is the giant Italian publisher. And of course, you can't go and have books done there. It's just not possible. So anyhow, that's what's going on. We got about 15 minutes left. So if anybody's got any questions, let's go ahead and do a non-stupid question period. I should do another stupid question day sometime in the next 2 weeks. So I'll need obviously some time to prepare myself for that, kind of clear the mind, contemplate, etc., just so I'm ready for it. But I'm not ready for it right now. So let's try to stick to the reasonable questions, the intelligent questions, stay away from the rhetorical questions, the retarded questions. Can you get whale leather? No, we cannot get whale leather, at least not legally. And we also cannot sell products that use whale leather. Dolphins are right out. We could, I believe, possibly do something in shark, but I'm not certain of that. Seal is doable, but I don't believe that we could do books in seal, because it would make Space Money very, very unhappy. In case you didn't know, seals are cute, and so I'm not. Goats are obviously pretty questionable, and there are certain goats that we are not allowed to contemplate using. But because that's a traditional bookbinding thing, that's okay. I think that if we're going to expand our offerings, we need to try to keep it in the range of the non-cute animals. So, speaking of non-cute animals, I saw a badger last night. That was kind of cool. I mean, I've seen them a couple times over here. I've never seen an American badger. I have seen a few of the European badgers. Horse leather is out then. Yeah, I mean, I don't know that it would even be, like, there's got to be a reason. We eat horse all the time. Space Bunny doesn't. But, over here in Europe, cheval is pretty popular. And so, I mean, I really like it, to be honest. My favorite is called Wapiti, which is not the actual American elk, but it's a sort of a European elk equivalent or something. And that's quite good. It's actually farmed here, and that's easily the best red meat that you get. Shark skin would be cool, very fitting for nautical books. Well, we'll have to look into it. I have no idea what the price would be. I mean, I think that sharks are somewhat protected now, but considering that they do make boots and stuff out of them, I assume that it's something that's obtainable. Is horse meat similar to deer meat? I would consider it more. It's not gamey at all. It's very deep red. It's rich in iron, apparently. I would say that it's similar to beef, but it's more flavorful. It has a they serve it in the Italian area. They even serve puledro, which I believe is like colt, like horse veal or something, um, which is kind of appalling in some ways. But um, I don't like the puledro myself, and I also don't like veal. Um, but the the adult horse is very rich and very. It's got a more intense taste than beef. Um, when we do the sort of fondue-like thing uh, that we do here, uh, I tend to find the beef is almost a little bit uh, not tasteless, but it's just not as the taste is not as intense relative to the horse or to the wapiti. The wapiti and the horse are more similar. So I guess you could say in that way it's more similar to deer meat. It looks more like it, but um, but without any gamey flavor at all. Higgs wants to know, will War in Heaven books be available on Arkhaven store soon? We are going to be producing the omnibus. Right now we're trying to wrap up um, Midnight's War, the first omnibus for Midnight's War. Once we get that wrapped up, then we'll do the War in Heaven books in the same way that we just did the War Dogs Incorporated omnibus. So, um, so we'll get the omnibus done first, and then we'll possibly see about getting the hardcovers done. So um, that's the plan at the moment. So there's a slight delay here, so if you've got a question, just go ahead and fire it up, and I'll address it when after I address a previous one. Or if there's if there's no questions, if it's just people saying hello, then I think we can probably call an end to the evening. Anyhow, thanks for tuning in, and I plan to do another stream either tomorrow night or Monday night. Like I said, there was a big football, a big game today with the team that we've been sponsoring, and so I think that it'll be fun to see some of the highlights there. Let me look this up. I think roughly how many books were sold to fund the bindery. I think it was about 500 total, so about 250 of each. I could be wrong. It could have been more, but that's roughly the amount that I think. As I mentioned, what we're planning to do is we're going to once we're ready to start the manufacturing process, we're going to give people about 2 weeks to purchase additional ones, not additional ones, but give the people who didn't have the chance to back it the first time the chance to do that. How's the Rebel figurine coming? It's not at the moment. We've got one guy that has been, he contacted us, been talking to him about it, but it's honestly not. We have to do it. We will do it. Like I said, the first 4 attempts we've made at it were all didn't cut it. And so we just need to find the right artist and the right partner, and that's what we're working on. Once the bindery is operational, will shipping for regular Castalia books be available in Europe? I believe so. We're planning to do so. We've already set up some things to do that, but we're not ready yet. Just one step at a time. Right now, some of the people that will be involved in handling that European shipping are very busy doing other more important things that are precursors to that. So we'll get there. Right now, some of the questions that we're dealing with are, where do we print? where do we, there's reasons to, believe it or not, there's production time reasons to actually print in England and then ship those to the US bindery. And then there's a question of where do we gild it? Do we gild it in the UK, in the US, in Switzerland? There's a tremendous number of moving pieces, and there's different costs associated to all these different things. And so we're just trying to be both responsible, be good partners to our partners, and above all, make sure that we deliver you guys top-notch, top quality books. If you've noticed, just from the graphics alone, we're improving our quality even before we're able to bind it ourselves. And we're working on improving the quality of the paper, of the illustrations inside, of the leather. We're actually experimenting with our first dual color stamping this week. So we're in the very, very, very early stages of what we're building here together with Castalia. So Jersey Bear says, could we reserve / pay in advance for the History of Japan collection? You cannot pay in advance because I'm not going to let anybody pay for anything that I don't even know. It's not a crowd fund, so I don't even know when we're going to formally start the process. I'm still waiting. I'm still waiting to get the PDFs from Cambridge. So we've already got the stuff quoted out for printing and all that kind of stuff, of course. But in fact, actually, I think we're still waiting for a quote or two. But what we've got already is doable. But in answer to your question of can you reserve one? Yes. Keep in mind that if you're going to, I'm pretty sure, I'm like 95% sure that the price is going to be $1,500 if you pay in advance for all 9, and it'll be $65 a month for 27 months if you want to pay for it monthly, which comes to like, I don't know, $17.99, something like that. That's a lot, there's no question. But this is also going to be one of our premier showpiece flagship products. Just because the combination of the unique and very high quality interior, I mean, this is literally the best English History of Japan ever produced. I mean, the level of detail is insane. I mean, if you ever read the whole thing, you will know far more about samurai tactics and rice harvesting taxes than you can imagine. It suddenly struck me that I was reading it one evening, and I suddenly realized that I'd read 50 pages on medieval Japanese tax policies. I can't say it was massively interesting. Anyhow, yeah, Janky McSpanky or whatever his name was, he was on John De La Rosa's stream. He said he absolutely wanted dibs on one. So if you want to, if you are serious, I mean, basically, if you understand that the set is going to cost $1,500, that's the plan. I mean, that's the minimum. It could be a bit more, but it's probably, I'm not usually wrong about my price estimates. So anyhow, if you are certain that you can afford the set and you want the set, etc., go ahead and email me and send me an email to that effect. I'll put you on the list, and what we'll do is we'll give you guys the first, we'll tell you about it before we go out and announce it and put it on the store. So yeah, well, what we're going to do is we're going to reserve the reservations. If you want to do monthly, there's nothing wrong with that. Go ahead and email me and tell me I'm interested in monthly. I'm going to pay for the whole thing up front. But keep in mind that the people who are willing and able to pay for it up front will probably take precedence. Now I don't think that that's going to be a problem at all. If we knew that there were more 250 people who were going to be willing to pay that much for a set in our community, because keep in mind, nobody outside of the community is going to have any idea where to get this or anything. They might see it on Castalia Library or something. They might see the post or whatever, but they're not subscribers. They're not going to get the emails, et cetera, et cetera. We set the number at 250 just because, in the knowledge of how expensive it is, in the knowledge that people already have a commitment to our other books and that sort of thing, we didn't want to. We thought it'd be better to err on the side of caution, and plus, it's a reasonable number. For Folio does 750 or 1,000, and those books are considered to be pretty desirable. The fact that we are going to limit this flagship product to 250 should just make them that much more valuable to the people who purchase them. And I would anticipate that within a year or two, it's going to be worth more than you paid for it, possibly considerably more. We'll see. But we still haven't decided yet. My goal, just so you understand my goal, is that I'm hoping that we will produce all of those in our own bindery. We still need to, I'm not going to, I'm probably, well, actually, here's a curious question for those of you who are interested in the set. What is more important to you? Having the bands on the spines or having it done at the Castalia bindery? I was assuming the bands on the spines and just not considering doing anything other than client stuff at the bindery until we have the band stuff down. But I really should stop assuming these things and should just ask the people who are relevant. So if you have an opinion, please feel free to share it. I'm not going to make any decisions based on it. I'm still optimistic that we'll get that last problem solved in the next 4 to 6 weeks, which is long before we'll start doing anything on the History of Japan set. But the objective would be to do that particular flagship set at our own bindery. It's something that's going to attract a lot of attention in the publishing industry. It's something that we'll use to acquire rights that we want to get. And so I think it's more useful to us. If we're just going to show nice stuff that we've done through the US bindery, we could do, we've already got dozens of examples. We don't need any more. Either source says, I don't mind waiting for the bindery to, bands or not. Yeah, I mean, I tend to think of them as mandatory, but that's just me. I mean, like, for example, I don't mind that this one doesn't have any bands on it at all, but I do think that it would be a little bit more impressive if we did have them. Also, what we're working towards, just so you know, is we're definitely working towards doing them in the Franklin style, not in the Easton style that we currently use. So that'll be another interesting difference. But anyhow, I'm just really it's hard to stop stroking the goat skin, you know. It's just so beautiful. But anyhow, well, thanks for tuning in. I look forward to seeing you at the next Darkstream. I hope you enjoyed this rare Saturday edition. We hopefully will do it more often. I'm Vox Day, and this is the Darkstream.